An opportunity has come our way and we're definitely not going to pass it up. You read the title right, DriveTribe is going racing. We're at the final round of the Radical SR1 Cup at Snetterton in the UK and I'm being thrown into the race. It's going to be a trial by fire, but I have to grab this opportunity with both hands. This is the practice day. Let's go check out the car. So what is the SR1 all about? Well, it's essentially a mini prototype sports car. It actually has a small amount of downforce. You've got a front splitter and you can't see it right now, but there is a rear wing on this car as well. So it creates a bit of downforce and it only weighs 490 kilograms. Combine that with the power output and it has 371 brake horsepower per ton, which means it shifts 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds and a top speed of just over 130 miles an hour. But top speed isn't really what it's about. It's all about cornering speeds and acceleration. So let's take a look in the cockpit. It's pretty tight in here, but it has to be a two-seater to be a sports prototype. And it's got 3 pedals. So a bike engine, you're clutch down and then change down to get it into first. But then after that, once you're up and going, you're on the flappy paddles and you're just brake accelerator. So once you're up and going, it's quite an easy thing to drive. Now at the back, we find the engine. It's a 4-cylinder bike engine, 182 brake horsepower. Now, because it's a bike engine, it's a bike drivetrain as well. So you'll see it is chain driven to a sprocket at the back, supplying the rear wheels with power. So to sum up with this car, it's got a bit of downforce thanks to some aero. It's got plenty grip thanks to these tyres. It's got plenty power considering how much it weighs, and it's pretty simple to drive on the gears. So it really is a great entry into motorsport. So Tom, it's wet. I've never been in this car before. What should I expect?
Right, so I guess the first thing with these cars is they're full-on race cars. So you've got no drive range, you've got no ABS, no traction control, anything like that. And you've been asked to extract the best lap time you can with that. And with that considered, you've then got a wet track. The key is, essentially, it's unnatural. It'll feel strange, but you've almost got to keep off where you would normally position the car in the dry. 2 things, you're trying to avoid the rubber and you're also trying to straighten the exit at each corner. So we do what's called the wet line. So if you watch this lap here, look, so it'll feel really unnatural to you, but we're going to aim to avoid the normal racing line. So you'll tend to go straight past the turning point. So I haven't turned into the corner, look, I've gone beyond it. Yeah. And I'm going round the outside where there's no rubber. So at this stage I've got more grip than what it would be if I was on the inside. I'm now approaching where the rubber is again from a dry line because the car's coming out to the outside. I'm looking to now dissect that as straight as possible. So I've got the car really quite straight at the point I want to put the power on.
So are you better going through what looks like a big patch of water than trying to hit?
Within reason. If it's not a big enough puddle that's going to make the car aquaplane, I'd sooner you go through where there's more water laid, if there's no rubber there. Obviously, if it's wet enough that the car's going to lift up, obviously you wouldn't want to go anywhere near it. But if you see that if all the other cars are driving around on the dry line and it's still wet but not as wet, there's still going to be more grip out on the outside. Okay. And it's really counterintuitive. Like you see at this hairpin here, how I'm trying to square the car up before I cross the patch of the track where all the rubber's laid down.
With that crash course in wet driving over, it was time to put that brain-scrambling theory to the test. The heavens had fully opened, and even with wet tyres on, this session was going to be one hell of a challenge. With that, I left the pits to see what my SR1 was all about. To begin with, the track is like a sheet of ice. Standing water and super glossy tarmac makes getting on the power very tricky, all while trying to deliberately leave slippery corner apexes well alone. After feeling what the car was capable of in the conditions, I decided it was time to take a brave pill and get on with it, ending in a 2:56 lap time. The rain just kept coming for practice 2, and despite the lovely rainbow, the track was getting pretty damn treacherous. But with my confidence building, I managed a 2:46 in the worst conditions of the day. Then came the next step, pushing the car past what I thought it was capable of. If I was going to be quick, I needed to find the car's limit at least some points around the track. And here are the results of that. The first being a lock-up into turn 4, and then this. I put the power down just as I crossed the slick racing line, and in a millisecond the back is round and I'm skidding towards the barrier. Thankfully, I get it stopped just in time and get the car back to the pits in one piece.
The thing that I'm really struggling to get to grips with is these wet lines. It's so counterintuitive. You see the apex of the corner and you have to essentially force yourself away from it so that you don't get anywhere near that matted rubber that's going to be almost like ice. So you've got to essentially dive so deep into the corners, and it's really hard to get your head around. And then getting on the throttle on the way out, you know, I'll admit, I'm an absolute scaredy cat when it comes to getting on the power and getting down the road. It's really tough, and you know, these guys that have been racing these all season are all over me. So yeah, I've just got to stay calm and somehow adjust to these wet conditions. Hopefully, fingers crossed, things manage to dry up.
And with that, my prayers were answered and the sun burned most of the water away. The track dried fully by the end of the day, meaning I could finally get the foot down. One thing I still need to work on is using all of the track. I should be right up at the white lines before turning in and then getting on the power and carrying enough speed to clout the exit curbs, seeing as these little radicals can cope just fine with a bit of curb action. This is probably the scariest corner on the track. You dart the car into the apex while still on the throttle after a long back straight, and then get it stopped under the bridge, forcing the car to stay left before a tight right-hander. My confidence really took a boost by the end of my final practice session, resulting in me sneaking into the 205s, a 205.94, 50 seconds quicker than my initial wet running.
Thank goodness for that dry session. That is exactly what I expected a Radical to be, and it's kind of what I expected that I would get out of the car. I was really using the sidewall of the tyre, which I just wasn't before in the wet. You can really lean on the car and you can feel that tyre flexing, but it's got tread, but not too much, so it just grips. So that's exactly what I thought a Radical would feel like, and I'm really glad that the rain went away and we actually had some dry running. So that's today's practice day at Snetterton all wrapped up, and I must admit that was one of the greatest challenges I've ever had behind the wheel of a car. Trying to build up pace when it's that wet is, you know, it's just such a challenge with all the guys coming in and around me. You know, it was tough. Thankfully things dried up and I'm so happy with that 205. That should put me in some decent stead for the race tomorrow, but who knows what the conditions will be like. It's the UK after all. Anyway, stay tuned for the next video to see how we get on in our first race.